Hi chums, this is Bayswater Road in the very heart of London. And when you think about it, Bayswater Road you wouldn't necessarily think had that many royal connections, or would you? Because of course Bayswater Road is literally adjacent, just down the road there, to Kensington Palace, the home of all the royals. It's an amazing place. Do you know, it's very strange. I was here a few days ago filming, and literally black car after black car was going down the private car park lane. Oh yes, you could sense the money. Do you know what I'm saying, chums? Absolutely. I wasn't there, obviously. I was waiting for the bus, But the thing was, all of these blacked out cars, you think, I know where you're going. And of course, it was going to a very, very special event at Kensington Palace. It's a bit like the scene out of Victoria, where you're just looking through the window, the sort of thing I mean. But you can't help it, can you, when you look around? Now, as I said, this particular road has been used in filming and all sorts of stuff in so many B films. Down the road is Lancaster Gate, and they've got some of those wonderful sort of white houses that they like to use a lot in those B films because, when you think about it, there they were, just pulling up and glamorously getting out of the car and going up the steps. Many now being turned into hotels, many now being turned into flats. But as I say, this particular area has a very significant part to play in royal history. And seemingly it's all about whether you could, well, some might suggest even today, could you get the favour of the most senior royal in the land? Many tried, and this is exactly how they did it. As ever, let me explain. This is a corner of Queen's Way as we know today, and this particular clock has stood here well over 100 years. This is now from the former department store that is Whiteleys. It was a rival in West London for Selfridges and Harrods, built by William Whiteley, and a very big royal favourite. Oh yes, everybody had to do their bit, to try and secure the business. Now when you look at, say, somebody like this particular area, you would think, well, how is this any different? When you look down Queen's Way today, it's not as glamorous as it was. The department store's gone now, that's going to be flats very soon. Everything changes, everything moves on, right? But what's interesting about this particular area is the people at the time in 1867 were very entrepreneurial, to say the least. This is because we had a new reigning monarch on the throne, Queen Victoria, right? And this particular area was called originally Black Lion Lane. Oh yes. And it wasn't seen as very glamorous, even though it was just a stone's throw away from Kensington Palace. The servants, as they were called then, may come down here to pick up the fruit, the veg, and all the things that they needed. Remember, everything was sourced locally at that point. People didn't travel around. The trains and all that sort of stuff were yet to get really into full throttle. But what's interesting about this is the businesses around here could quickly see that all thanks to the fact that they had a new reigning monarch on the throne, they were going to do something rather radical in order to make sure that they got her business. And this is exactly what they came up. You see, in 1837, not too long after Queen Victoria had decided to take on the throne, well, not decided, but it was part and parcel of the job, the life, etc. Well, they decided to rename this Queen Street. Oh yes, in honour of Queen Victoria. They wanted to actually call it Queen Victoria Street, but according to the records, Queen Victoria didn't necessarily think this part of London was befitting for her name. This is of course a few years down the line before we had Victoria Station and everything else that she wanted to get her name on. But they literally wrote to the palace, Kensington Palace, and they were given the authority to rename it. And the idea really was that all of this burgeoning sort of shopkeepers and stuff like that, all thanks to the notion that they were going to have Whiteleys a few years down the line, well, they figured that they could get royal business. You see how nothing's different, right? And the idea really was that, well, very quickly, they felt that maybe the Queen, or indeed the servants, etc., would start to frequent what we now know as Queensway. Well, it didn't exactly work out to plan. What did happen was that, yes, a lot of the businesses that sprung up did get frequented by royal staff. It's not known whether Queen Victoria came down here or not. Lots of things were delivered from various shops back to the palace. But you see the ingenuity. I mentioned the other days about royal warrants. You see, even then, people were very ingenious. Now, this particular area remained named in honour of Queen Victoria right through until 1938, when it was renamed Queensway. And this really stemmed from the fact that there was a sort of adverse reaction to the monarchy, all thanks to the fact that of the abdication of the King and Mrs. Wallis Simpson. Trust me, this is how things moved even back then. But way back in the 1800s, if you'd have walked down here, you would have seen at points, allegedly, the Prince of Wales, Bertie. He liked to stroll up and down looking at these burgeoning and more enlightening and engaging shop windows, and then would report back to certain people saying, this person looks a good person to do business with, or this shop looks quite inviting, let's check it out. So if you think anything's new, as I often say here on the show, chums, it's all been done before. It's just lost in the annals of time until you and I discover it once again. Neil Sean in the very heart of Queensway, West London.